What's needed? You're going to need a plastic cup. Cheaper the better. Cheaper ones are just more porous, that's why. You're going to need some power mesh. It's just a stretchable fabric that you can get at any fabric store. Then you're going to need some silicone rubber. I would recommend getting a version with a 5-minute pot life. This one I was using in this video was actually a 2-minute pot life, so things were kind of difficult. And then you're going to want to get some silicone paint. I would recommend getting a full color scale if you can, just to customize any colors in the future. And then you're going to need some tongue depressors. This is just to mix the silicone, add the paint, and then smooth out the silicone onto the cup. So the first thing you're going to want to do is you're going to want to divide equal parts of the silicone into 2 cups. I label my cups A and B just to keep track of things. Even after doing this numerous times, I still pour the same parts into the same cup, leading to epic failure. So after you do that, you're going to want to slowly add the paint to get your desired color. So we're trying to go for like a flesh tone commonly found on mannequins. Good practice is to mix the paint in 1 cup while the 2 parts are still unmixed. This just gives you plenty of time to find that palette you desire, instead of like rushing through it and trying to figure it out within that 5 minutes till it sets. As you mix the paint, just make sure you constantly scrape the sides to get all the paint residue. If you do not, you will be left with paint blemishes in your final product. As you can see, I'm kind of scraping the sides now. I got a couple in there, so I don't have any blemishes left. So paint is all mixed in. You are now ready to combine the 2 parts. So just remember, at this time, you should be ready to mix. Try to get as much silicone out as possible, but even then, there's still leftovers in the cup. Have your mesh you'll be using pre-cut to the cup and both sitting close by. I think my mesh and my cup are just right out of the side, onto the side of the picture right there. So awesome tip actually is to use a timer. Hit it right before you mix the 2 parts together. I usually use my phone, which is actually just set off to the side. Once the silicone is all mixed into 1 cup, you'll begin to spread the silicone out and onto the cup you'll be using for your sleeve. And the reason we do this is because it lets the mesh stick to the cup as you wrap it around instead of it falling all over the place. This was just one of those processes that took forever to figure out actually. It's a simple one, but it was something that was missing when I was going through it. So trust me when I always tell somebody, this is always a learning process. Now, as you spread it out, remember it doesn't have to be perfectly smooth, just enough to cover the area where the mesh will be applied. As you apply the mesh, just make sure you get those wrinkles out so there isn't any waves in your sleeve. So you'll see a couple wrinkles there. I'll start to pull those wrinkles out. Smooth it out a little bit. And then I'll be ready to pour the rest on. So on this day, I needed a challenge, I guess. Remember I mentioned I had a 2-minute pot life. That means I have 2 minutes to work with this silicone before it sets. So this video was actually slowed down tremendously. And then you can also see that this actually will make a mess. So make sure you do it in an area where you can make one. I mean, there's nothing like making a mess on a brand new office table in someone else's office though. I really appreciate that table. And then this also means this was my second try, right? So no need to feel bad if you end up with quite a few test tries. I mean, it happens, you know, even the best of us, you know, we have to try and try again, but don't quit. You'll get it. I think I kept trying to convince myself it was that darn heat that day, you know, why it was setting so quick. But remember, I'm sitting in an office and it's actually just 72 degrees in here. Now, once the silicone is applied to the mesh, try to make sure you spread it past the mesh and onto the cup. This will give you a better transition blend when you are applying the sleeve and during the moulage process. There are some sleeves on the market that they are cut where the mesh ends, which is perfectly fine, but we're going for a cleaner look when we are spreading past the mesh. As I mentioned earlier, you'll make a mess whenever you decide to build a sleeve. And then there's still some in the cup, right? No matter what, there are always leftovers. I personally don't mind the leftovers in the cup because I use this as a way to test the texture of the silicone as it progresses. With what's left in the cup, just try your best to splatter it around all over the sides, kind of making a spider web in there. At the end, I'll show you what can be made out of it. Now you apply some powder to take the sheen out of the silicone. Now these are just steps I like to do. I mean, you don't have to do it, but I would recommend doing the powder part when you're taking the sleeve off of the cup. So I also applied some of that powder to the sleeve prior to removal of the cup. Big disclaimer coming up here shortly. So this is CHSOS practice leg, right? That I normally have rolling around in my trunk to scare folks at the car wash. Please don't be like CHSO. Make sure you do your cuts prior to applying the sleeve, especially if you're putting this on a human. I can already tell my boss is out there somewhere shaking her head. So one of the worst habits I picked up along the way is that I always feel some darker paint adds depth. Some folks love it, some folks hate it. I just happen to be one of those that loves to use it in my moulage applications. Do you have to do this process? No, you can just throw some blood on there if you want to. It's totally up to you. And then next, I'm just going to add just a little bit of scab blood. It's a little bit thicker blood that does not drip, more like a paste consistency. This was actually the first time I got to use this, thanks to my 2-day delivery. And I really like this stuff. Like I said, I was going to do a little. I might have lied about that. But where's the fun in applying just a little, especially if this is like your first time utilizing it. And the great thing too is these sleeves, they hold things in well. As you can see, I'm pulling it up and I can put things under it already. So things are starting to come together, right? Starting to look a little bit better. We're starting to get that effect of like a cut on a leg there. It's giving that depth that sometimes moulage does not have. And then next, I'm just going to add some gel type blood. This type runs, but it's a tad, but at like a tad slower pace than the normal liquid ones you find. I usually dab the wound with a paper towel or sponge, so the fingerprints will not be left behind in the process. As I mentioned, these sleeves hold stuff in greatly. You could possibly do it open fracture, just slide a shaving down bone in there. Once again with the scab blood, right? Don't judge me, y'all. I really like this product. And then once more, add a little bit of powder just to take the sheen away the silicone gives off. So the previous sleeve was actually done just to show the mesh inside as we talked through the process of making it. I did another one to show how it looked color matched to a typical mannequin. You really can't see the mesh at all, so it's pretty good. And then I know what you're thinking, right? Like, why is that leg blue? Maybe it's an alien being, possibly a totally new mannequin that it has yet to hit the market. Possibly. No, it's just the cup, y'all. And then voila, there goes our cut. It looks pretty gnarly. Just keep in mind that what you could possibly make of wax could be replaced by these reusable sleeves. Just clean, sanitize, and let dry. Plus, this mesh inlay allows these to be suturable, which is kind of a cool feature. We almost forgot our leftovers. Remember, this is what we spiderwebbed in that cup. And all I did was pull it out and set it in a tray. I added a little bit of gel type blood to it, went to lunch, let it dry during that time, and came back, and you'll see it just dries up on that silicone. And then next you're going to go ahead and take a very small amount of silicone, tint it red, and then we're going to apply it to that silicone that we put the dried up blood on, right? Our scraps that we normally throw away. And what this does is going to encapsulate all that dried up blood and give it a veiny look. And when you encapsulate it, it's going to stay there forever. It's never going to wash off, go away. It's going to give that chunky look, more of a three-dimensional look that we need in the moulage application, right? And like I said, it's a veiny look, which is kind of cool. And then after that, all you got to do is add some more blood. And then, bam, clot making 101. I will say that the more you use these, the more blood you put on them, the better they start looking. We use these for our postpartum hemorrhage sims. And I just put them in a plastic bag when we're done, and then pull them out, throw some more blood on them at the end of the day. Like I said, these are just scraps you'd normally throw away. We actually made something out of it, and I hope you guys enjoyed the videos. If you guys have any questions, you're more than welcome to reach out. And we'll see you on the next one, right? Adios.